Hi, my name is Kristen and I'm your host for Icons of Naples, this series where we honor our Naples community heroes, our movers, shakers, and history makers who helped make our community the place we love to call home. Today on Icons of Naples, welcome Paul Butch Manley. Now, for those of you who don't know, Butch, or Paul, or as we know him if you grew up here, Mr. Manley, was the first principal of Barron Collier High School. But for those of you who've been here even longer, you might remember him from Lely High School and East Naples Middle School, I think, right?
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Okay. And for nearly 2 decades, he was at Barron Collier. And his motto, which I believe is still on the walls there, is all students can learn. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited that I got to see you recently and get you on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So a lot of people don't know your backstory. So let's start there. What brought you to Naples to begin with?
I graduated from Purdue and was a teacher in a suburb of Indianapolis for about 3 years. And I decided I wanted to leave that area. And my wife and I had completed our master's degree. And we came down to Florida over a Christmas break. And we were here in Naples for one night. When we decided we were going to leave, I said, what was that little school down there in South Florida? We looked it up, Collier County. We sent for applications, and we also sent for applications for other places. Immediately they called us, can you come down? So we made a short trip, and actually we were hired before we left Indianapolis because we both had our master's degree. Uh-huh. And at that point in time, Collier County only had one teacher with a master's degree.
Wow.
So that's how we got down here.
And what year was that?
1967.
Holy moly. Well before my time.
Right. And I taught biology and was an assistant football coach and head track coach. One of my favorite gentlemen was Jerome Edwards. Oh, yes. Jerome was the band director, but unbelievably, he went to Florida State and was on a scholarship for pole vaulting. And so he helped me with my track, and we had a great combination, he and I, and he was a wonderful, wonderful gentleman.
See, that's interesting to know because I had Jerome in band at Naples High School.
Yes.
And I never knew that he was a pole vaulter.
Oh, yeah.
And when we spoke the other day, I went home and I told my son, I said, you're not going to believe what my band director was. I said, he was a pole vaulter at FSU because my son just graduated from FSU. And he's like, well, that's a small world. And that he was a scholarship for pole vaulting because that's even rarer when it comes in track and field.
Yes, yes.
So you were doing what school were you at when you were doing the track?
Naples High School.
Naples High.
I came down as a biology teacher and football and track coach. There was a walkout in the second year that we came down here.
No.
Yeah, and they had a big conclave up in Orlando where we all went up there, and everybody went, and they did a walkout. Well, I didn't move 1,200 miles to walk out.
Right.
And actually, the salary that we were getting in Naples was just as good, if not better than. So we didn't walk out, and it lasted about a week, and it didn't work.
It didn't stick.
It didn't stick. But that was the big situation there. That was followed by a tremendous growth of students in Collier County. When I came here, I think there was a little less than 1,000 high school students, 10 through 12. Then they brought up the 9th grade, and then there was a lot of growth, and they back then you had to do a bond referendum to build a new facility, and the bond referendum failed. So the next year we went on double sessions.
Now explain what a double session is, because we don't have those anymore.
Yeah. No, we don't. Thank God. Well, first of all, why am I involved in double sessions? I was a teacher, and I became an assistant principal for discipline. double sessions meant the juniors and seniors went in the morning from about 6:30 to 11:30, 12 o'clock. And then the freshmen and sophomores went from 12:30 to, I think, 6. So it was just constant students coming and going.
Wow.
There were other assistant principals in discipline, but I was the one who had the 9th and 10th graders. So that was interesting.
That's fun.
And the kids loved it, but it was a really difficult time educationally for our students because they really weren't getting a quality education. The bond referendum did pass then 2 years later, but we were on double sessions almost 3 years. And that's when Lely High School opened up.
And what year was that? I'm trying to remember when Lely opened.
72.
Okay, so that is a lot going on in a short period of time.
Clyde Quimby, who was a tremendous mentor and passed there recently, he was the principal. And so he and I and Charlotte Gore, we opened the school. Well, I told you about Naples when we opened up Naples. Well, there was a bigger problem with Lely. The school wasn't going to be ready in August. So Naples High went to Naples High in the morning, and Lely High went to Naples High in the afternoon.
Wow.
And
that's incredible.
Oh, incredible. And then at the semester, this facility was done, and we moved into Lely High School then at the second semester. So those things all occurred because of financing and how that we finance schools, and that's disappeared today. Today, we have a Florida Education Finance Program where the school system can assess up to 10 mills, of which 2 can be used for facilities. So right now, in this years I've been here, we have the best facilities in the state of Florida, without question. I mean, just go into any, and you'll see that.
I think they've really come a long way from even when I started. They're like college campuses. They're amazing.
They are, and the new high school, Aubrey Rogers, that was actually built without a bond because the school system with the leadership of the past administrators would save money to build schools. And we're very, very unique in the fact that saved the taxpayers a lot of money.
Well, it's a lot to think of that in not even 40 years or right around 40 years, how much we've grown in the high school areas.
Absolutely.
We went from 3 when I was in 84, right. There were 3 high schools. And now we have, I think we just said 7.
Yes.
I mean, that's incredible. And right. Having to manage all of that. And right. I mean, I'm glad I'm not in that job.
And the quality of education, I think, is equal to the expense and the facilities that we have. Now, at Barron Collier, if you want to talk about that.
I was just looking. I'm like, oh, let's talk about when Barron Collier opened. What was that like?
I went to Lely for a year and a half, and Clyde Quimby was the first principal, and then he went to the county office and was the assistant superintendent and became superintendent. But anyhow, I went to East Naples Middle School. That was my first principalship.
Okay.
And I was there for a year and a half, and it was a rewarding. I really liked that age group. You know, don't know you're going. I'd say, "You're ever going to do that again?" "No, I won't." And the next day they do it again. That kind of thing. But that's where I'll stop for a moment. That's where I got the motto: all students can learn.
Okay.
That and a lot of other things. But this had a big impact upon me. I had a mother that had a 7th grade boy. And she came in and she was just concerned because he was like getting B's and C's. And I talked to her, and the counselors talked to her, and the teachers talked to her. And I kind of thought, here was a mother that probably had an average boy that wanted to have an A student.
Right.
So after a couple of meetings with her, I said, well, let's get him tested. That's when I learned something. He was gifted, but had a learning disability. All students can learn. If you know that, here's a kid that had a learning disability, and we didn't recognize it till he was a 7th grader. We had him tested. He became gifted. Guess what? All A's.
Wow.
So that was an impression upon me, and that helped me with understanding what parents want, and it was just a good learning experience. And so I believe every student can learn. Now, there's all kind of things that can create a problem for them. If they don't study, they have bad attitude, they have parental problems and so forth. Mm-hmm. But if you can find out what the problem is, that student can learn. You got to believe that, or you shouldn't be a teacher.
Oh, I like that philosophy a lot. I really do. Because my sister had some situations growing up where they misdiagnosed what her situation was. And once they got it right, it was such a change.
Exactly.
And the same with my son. He had some things when he was younger. And, it got to a point where it's frustrating for a parent because you know your child at home and you know what they're capable of. And, some of the boys are a little rambunctious when they're little kids, But if you have teachers that work with them and try to listen to what the problems are, it really changes, I think, the outcome.
I always used to tell the teachers, if you're having problems with a child, the first thing you should do is call the parent. Not so much that you're wanting to change, you want to get the parent on your side. Mm. Now, if I call you as a parent and you become abusive to me as a teacher, then I would say to the teacher, you bring that to the administration and we'll go from there.
Right.
Because now I've got a problem. And I think if everybody does that, it really helps, so forth.
Yeah.
But you were talking about schools and facilities. If you want to move into Barron Collier and so forth.
Well, I know there's some stories when it opened that were just like the first year. I think there was some. I'll let you tell them.
Well, again, we'll go back to the growth in Collier County of students, and we grew. And we went away from the bond referendum, but if you had a certain percent of growth, the state would provide funds for a facility.
Okay.
So the state provided funds for the facility, but they didn't provide funds for athletic facilities. Okay. So Barron Collier, when we opened, we had a gymnasium because that could be used for physical education. But we didn't have a football stadium. We didn't have baseball. We didn't have softball fields. Well, for example, our baseball team played at Point Siena, and home run was in the tomato field. So for 3 years, we were kind of catching up with what we needed. And then at that point in time, the state changed their formula for facilities, and that really helped Barron Collier. The other thing about opening up Barron Collier, they put myself and my secretary on in April. Now they put the principals on a year out or even a year and a half out. So that was a disadvantage. We had to drive to Naples and Lely and schedule the students. The other thing, too, is teachers were assigned to Barron Collier because all my students came from either Lely or Barron. Okay. So the staff was disgruntled. They were sent to the
Didn't
new
like
school.
The change. Yeah.
Well, then when you add all these up, then you also have to say, let's see, it was about the middle of May, they informed me that the school auditorium, band, chorus, and gymnasium wouldn't be ready. Because the problem was it was go or no go. If they didn't do it at that point in time and move the students in then they'd have to wait a whole year. So we opened Barron with those facilities not available, and we just had to make things work. The staffing formula said we would have about 1,080 students. Opening day, we had 1,250, and it went up to almost 100 over what they had projected. And we were just overcrowded. And I was a former biology teacher, and our biology classes were averaging like 45, 46. Kids couldn't even sit down. There were so many. So I told the guidance counselor, I says, break out 2 sections, first and second period, and I'll take them until we get a new teacher. Thinking maybe a week, maybe at best 2 weeks. 6 weeks later, I got it. So my day started with 2 periods of biology, and then I would go to become a principal. A little sidebar, if I ever became superintendent, I would encourage board members to have a teaching principal. Now, you'd have to give that principal a lot of other help because of what it did is, like I said, the students came to Barron from Naples and Lely, and so did the staff, and a lot of the staff didn't want to be there. But I think when I did that, I didn't do this for that reason, but it rallied the staff behind me, the administration, all the problems we were having. And I would say by the end of the year, 80% of the teachers were happy to be there. And then what happened is those that weren't happy, we could move them back and around and do whatever they wanted to do. And we were a growth school, so I would hire new teachers too. So it took about 3 years to get the staff really doing the things that we needed to do and not doing all the things that we shouldn't have to do, which is maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
So it took about 3 years to get the school settled,
Yes,
in a groove.
And we finally got our stadium and a baseball field and softball fields. And by the way, it's kind of interesting. You're talking about 50 years. Today, all the high schools are having the artificial turf. Yeah. And at Barron Collier, they're replacing the football field artificial turf and also the baseball and softball. It's really unbelievable. And I also want to say to people that they think that's too expensive. It isn't. For maintenance-wise, it's cheaper to maintain a tartan field than a grass field. But anyhow.
I think putting it in is the big cost.
Big
but
cost.
Longevity is
Exactly.
there, especially with our rains and stuff and the way that our weather is.
Yes.
I would think it'd be definitely cost effective over time.
Over time, absolutely.
Now, speaking of football stadiums, when you got here, you showed us a video. Tell us about that video.
Well, it kind of coordinated with my philosophy that, I was Mr. Manley and I was wore a suit every day and so forth. But I'd let my hair down when we'd have a little football game, especially with Naples High School. They were our rivals. Mm-hmm. And so the band would always have a certain theme song. And so what I would do is I would write a skit for that theme song. And my administration, they didn't have a choice. They had to be part of the skit. And we did a Batman skit, Lone Ranger, several different. And it was when we would play Naples. So we would play that game with.
Yeah, it was very interesting. We're going to see if we can splice some of that into maybe the intro or the outro or somewhere in here. We'll see what great things Zach can make happen. Because I was watching that and it was a hoot. It was such a treat to watch. And that's one of the things, like, I've talked to many people over the years throughout business and, where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to school? And your name would come up if they went, who was your teacher here? Who did you have there? And Mr. Manley was our president, and he was our principal of the school and so forth. And so, in fact, the other day I was speaking with somebody and I said, guess who's going to be on? I was speaking with Orsi. And I said, guess who's going to be on? And I said, Mr. Manley, because your name used to come up with him and Carl. Oh, yes. Steppling a lot.
Right.
And I was like, I've heard this name so many times, even from when I was in high school,
right,
in band, all the way through the years of living here. So your legacy is definitely touched a lot of lives.
A quick sidebar: the first one I ever did was not with the band, but with ROTC, and I'll quickly go through this.
No, that's fine.
As the students were coming out to the stadium, the ROTC kids were all dressed up in their fatigues, and they were like looking around like this, and so the kids couldn't figure out what it is, and all of a sudden, here come a chopper in, and it landed on the field. And Rambo got out, and Rambo had a hat on and glasses, fatigue and all that. And the ROTC kids lined up on the 40-yard line, and I walked right through the middle of them, had my sidebar pistol on, and Colonel Panagius was the head of the ROTC, and I says, Colonel, I have been looking for the Colonel said, I've been looking for the eagle, but I haven't found it. Well, most of the kids had recognized me, but when my voice came out, it says, I'll find him. Their stand went crazy. Oh. So I get back in the chopper. Now, at that time, there wasn't any like the things around Barron Collier.
Yeah.
The county office.
It was kind of out there. We called Barron was the out there school.
That's right. So I had a sheet that was made up to be an eagle, and then I had bricks in it so it wouldn't fly up into the. So here come the chopper back, and I had let that eagle out and dropped it, and the team went over and tore it up and all that. So I brought the helicopter onto the field. I'll tell you this too. One of the board members thought that was terrible. And the superintendent said, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
So anyhow, that started the things that we would do from then on as far as the pep rallies.
Oh, what a great time.
Yeah, it was good.
What a great time. So when you started at Barron, did you have as an incoming principal to like really this clean slate, although not quite ready for you slate? Did you have a vision of what you wanted that school to be like?
Yes. I wanted it to be a growth school, a community school, a school within a community that was very important to the families and the students. We had a little episode with some drinking with our students and our athletes and so forth, and I had a couple of parents that came to me. Ronnie Mahan was one of them, and he was a great person. And anyhow, they said, we need to have a better code of conduct. Mm-hmm. So we formed a committee of parents, students, faculty members, and members of the community. Mm-hmm. And we came up with a code of conduct. It was really something. If you were in association with the illegal drinking, if you were if you had possession of that, then you could be coded.
Yep.
And the other thing was it was 365 days. So if you were an athlete, if you were on the student council, and you got involved with alcohol or drugs, you could be coded, even during the non-thing. The superintendent called me in, and I remember he said, "Paul, I don't think we can go with this." And I said, "Dr. So-and-so, I know what I'm up against. I can run this, and I'll keep us out of court. Give us a chance." And remember, it was not my code. It was done by parents, students, and so forth. And again, when you say, what are they trying to do? I'm trying to involve my family with the education. And it worked. I had, in all those years, maybe two parents that really, I remember I told one parent, I said, "Okay, I guess you're going to be the end of the code." "What do you mean?" "If you continue to push this, and I have to code your child, then we're going to lose. Because if you take it to court, you'll probably lose. But who's going to really lose are all the kids." Right. I had the first year we had the code, in the summer, one of our athletes was down in old Naples and picked up two girls, and he knew it, but they had a bottle of booze in the car. Mm-hmm. The father said, "Who's going to go see Mr. Broxson?" Not me. The father said. I had parents come in and say, "Tell him Mr. Manley, what you did." Parents would say, "I'm going away this weekend. Now remember, if you get in the code, I'm going to support the school." So that was really a hard thing to do, a hard thing to administrate, but it was a community.
Well, it became when they say it takes a village, you have the support. It's and there's no changing of rules. You have one rule. I know nowadays sometimes people have different homes that they live in and stuff. Right. It's one rule at one place and one rule at another place. And I think it's harder for children at any age to function fully. Right. If they have multiple rules, they have one at school, one at this house, one at that house, another one at work. It's like if it's consistent, I think it's easier on them, especially at the younger ages.
Exactly. And, I'm not naive. I don't believe it stopped every teenager in Barron Collier High School from drinking, but it certainly stopped some seniors coming in and saying, "Boy, I got drunk this weekend." I mean, it really was. Well, going back to your original question, I had an opportunity to develop a relationship with teachers, students, and parents. And I think the parent participation was the main ingredient that made us unique. Because good teachers are going to be good teachers, and if the parents are behind you, the students are going to be good students. So it was a unique time. I don't believe anybody could do it today. I don't think I could do it today. And I'm not saying this. It's just the change in time.
It has changed.
Yeah.
I remember at Naples when people would come over from Barron, there was always like, oh, they're so strict over there. Something about the dress code was very strict compared to Naples. And I kept thinking, because I came from a Baptist school
Yes.
where when people would talk about a strict dress code, I'm like, you have no idea what strict is. I think what I'm wearing today maybe came close to what I had to wear to school,
Right.
to the Baptist school. So when people say your school was strict, I'm like, that's a walk in the park.
Well, what was interesting is we had a short policy, and
That's what it was.
and
Yes.
everybody was complaining. The teachers were complaining about short. So I got on the intercom on Monday and I said, "Now, students, we have a dress code for shorts, and we're having problems. We shouldn't have to worry about problems in education when we're trying to educate you. But I know the difference between shorts and no shorts. So if this continues, I'm going to say no shorts." I got on the intercom Friday afternoon and says, "Well, guess what? Starting Monday, no shorts at Barron Collier High School." 30 parents objected.
Wow.
And the point is and I communicated to the parents, that's a learning situation. You may not like that rule, but when you go to work, if your hair is down to your shoulders and the boss says, "Well, will you cut your hair to have the job?" And you say, "Well, I have my rights," and all that stuff. So it was a learning situation. And I know the parents felt that way too.
It's like not wearing a hairnet if you're behind the counter at a food situation. There's just certain things that make the job better for everyone. Yeah, I remember that. It was that was a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in Florida, so shorts is a big thing.
And
so I
to
remember.
kind of finalize that, the next summer or the next fall, student council came to me and they said, "What can we do to get the shorts back?" And I said, "Well, I am a learned man, but what we wrote didn't work. You write the book policy." So they would bring me the policy and I'd say, "What about this?" So I says, "Okay, this will work. You tell the students." So student council, you inform the students of the dress code. Yeah. And it was so funny. Kid would come out and they'd say, "Here's so-and-so. Now he doesn't have the right shorts on." Boo! All the kids are going in. "Now here's Mary, and she's got the right." Yay! It
became a thing.
But it allowed the student council to become leaders in their school, and it worked. It worked.
No, I think it's important when you can have when kids, high school kids can become a voice for themselves.
Sure.
And then they become a voice that other people will listen to because it's a peer. Mm-hmm. I think the chances of success are higher among that educational bracket,
right? Because
they're like, okay, I think I like this because, I know the person saying it.
And they had a voice in what was going on, and that was good.
So now, still on Barron though.
Okay.
Was there an event, a tradition, a milestone of your years there, or all three, that you look back on and you're like, oh, I really love doing that? Or was there a milestone that you look back on and you say, that was such a great time?
Yeah. Well, the first class, they didn't really want to be there when they started, but it was a small group, and I worked very hard to know who they were and all that kind of stuff. So the first graduation, unbeknownst to me, when they came across the stage, they gave me a penny for good luck. And it was kind of, I was putting the pennies in my sleeve, how the sleeves are and all that kind of stuff. So the next year, I returned the penny to that graduating class, and then they were supposed to give me something to remember them by.
Oh, okay.
And there was some really nice, there were some screwy ones too. One time, one group gave me all beer caps, and that's okay. Anyhow, but that's kids. But what happened was Dr. Kinsley, who's been at Barron for 4 years, he's initiated that again, to where he has been giving the seniors a penny with their 2022, 2023 on it as a thing that was part of Barron Collier. And then he's a very great guy. This past graduation, he invited me to give the kids the pennies. And I thought that was wonderful.
Wow.
Well, they hadn't been giving him, the principal, anything for the last 2 years. So I went to the senior class sponsor and I said, this is what they did. Maybe you might want to have the seniors give them something. So they did. And they were little bitty plastic babies. And when they would give it to him, then I would give the penny. Well, the reason they did that, he was at Pine Ridge for 3 years and at Barron for 4 years, and he called the kids his baby. They were his babies. That's just how close he is to his kids. He's a great, but that was really something. That was to bring it back and then to have that meaning that you're my babies.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's incredible.
And he's a good man. He's a good man.
Oh, and what's his name again?
Kinsley, Dr. Kinsley.
Dr. Kinsley. So that's the current one.
Yeah, he's current. And he was at Pine Ridge for several years, and then he was promoted to Barron Collier.
Yeah.
This was his 4th year.
Okay. So you mentioned something earlier I just want to go back on because before I forget, you mentioned about rising 9th graders. I don't think people understand where the 9th graders were before they came to high school.
Oh, okay.
So tell us what that means.
Yeah. When I came to Naples in '67, they had junior high school. Now they have middle schools. And the junior high school was grade 6, 7, junior high 7, 8, and 9.
Right.
And they went to the downtown Gulfview. With the growth, there was more room at Naples High School to bring the 9th grader in and then bring 6th graders into the middle school.
Right.
So that was the reason they did that. So it went, and we're still doing that today. We have middle schools, 6 through 8, high schools 9 through 12.
Right.
And it also is better curricular too. The more students you have, the more courses you can offer.
Okay.
And I'm not saying anything negative about our private schools. I know they have a place in Naples, but they do have a hard time offering all the advanced courses and the courses for the low ability students. I'll stop that, but they don't really have a lot of low ability students. But anyhow, the larger the school, the more courses you can offer.
That's so true. I did see that with my kids who did go to private school. And I saw that they'll lose the smaller, our private schools in this community are pretty small compared to some of the other communities that I know up north. But it is harder to offer the variety.
Right.
I mean, you can deep dive because there's smaller classes and things like that. So
true.
It's a weighted thing.
Right.
But I do know that is a place they struggle because if their child's really, really focused on something and there's only 2 courses offered on that, then they really do need to switch to a larger school. And Naples still being a smaller community, although we don't believe it with 7 high schools.
Yeah. Well, and today the private schools have grown enough that they can offer those types of courses. But back in when Barron was first open and all that kind of stuff, it was very difficult for private schools to have a lot. Most of them were like one through the 8th grade, and then they would come to the public school.
I remember in our school at Naples High in '84 that there were people who left to go take something at other schools because it was offered there. Like at the end of the day, they take that 6th or 7th period. They'd have to drive to the other school to take that course because our community was still small back then.
Exactly. That's true.
That's interesting. So you retired in 1996 from Barron Collier. Do I have that right? Okay. And looking back, what do you feel like your significant contribution was during those 18 years besides the dress code?
I think that my legacy would be community involvement, strong academics. All students can learn. I don't know exactly how they do it today, but we used to have phasing. Like phase 4 was an advanced student, phase 3 was average, phase 2 was below average, and then we had advanced phase 5. I don't think they have that today, but that's important. And what was also important is my phase 2 teachers. They were my best teachers. I would say that many schools that have low ability classes, they put maybe not their best teachers in there. I tried to maybe say to you as a teacher, okay, it wasn't, I would I'm not negotiating, but I'm going to give you 3 phase 4 classes, but I want you to teach my phase 2, whatever, because they need you.
Yeah.
And that was the important thing. And in theory, you talk about the bell-shaped curve.
Yeah.
In theory, with phasing, you should never have any D's and F's. If you're teaching at their level, you should only have A, B's, and C's.
That's true.
Now, I also would look at teacher grades at the semester and so forth. And I would, if I didn't see that curve that I thought was important, I'd call the teacher in. I wasn't trying to force you to give A, B's, and C's. Mm-hmm. And it took a while for some teachers to understand that. What I was trying to say is, what's the problem?
Right.
Why do you have 10% Fs or whatever? And quite often they would say, well, I had these kids, and remember this, when they had a problem, and the problem was the reason they failed, not the fact that we weren't teaching at their ability level. So I think ability teaching at the level of the students, all students can learn, was what I left it with.
Yeah.
And it's there today.
I think that's, personally, I agree with you. I'm not sure what they do now because my kids are grown, but I think that everybody's has a different ability. And like when I went to school up north briefly, they had an auto mechanics bay in the actual school. Mm-hmm. And it was a high school, but some kids gravitated towards working with their hands. Some kids gravitated towards music, and some kids gravitated towards biology. Right. And teaching them at their ability, and encouraging their like of education will at least get them through the classes they hate, in my opinion.
You're right.
Because I know there were some classes my son absolutely did not like. Mm-hmm. But because he enjoyed the other classes, he could sit through that hour of, okay, we're here today, and then, get by. And I don't think he ever got anything lower than a B or a C, because the other classes were so intriguing that it carried over that 1 hour of,
yes,
I can't believe I have to sit in here. So I like that concept, but I don't know what they do today. So any teachers out there, maybe you could let us know in the comments. So now, fast forward to after you were done with being a principal. What was the first thing you did that year?
Well, one thing that they have today that they didn't have when I was going to retire was a program where you could retire and then come back and teach or be involved for another 5 years.
Oh.
It's a program where what's good about it is if you were a 30-year teacher, you would retire. And you would have you would have your Florida retirement. Well, that would go into annuity, and they would hire you back, but not at the top of the scale, but at the bottom of the scale. So it actually they didn't have that when I was, and again, I don't know if they even had that program. I would have stayed there, but I was fortunate enough that I knew Gary Tice and Garrett Richter, who were big bankers in town, and they hired me as a business development officer, only because I'd been here for all those years. And they put me with another gentleman who was a retired president of the bank that was Garrett's boss at one time, Bob Pollock, and he's passed. But anyhow, Bob and I, they call it the Butch and Bob Show. And what we did is we went out and we brought new customers into the bank pretty much by entertaining, talking, and we did a good, and I was with First National Bank until they actually sold it to Fifth Third.
Oh, wow. That was a while.
Yeah, I was a glad hander, and I enjoyed it, and I learned a little bit about banking, and we had that, so that's it.
Well, along with that came your community involvement about I'm reading here, the Collier County All-Star Football Classic. So you're back on that field again.
Right. Well, that was through Rotary.
Okay.
And Lee County has had their All-Star game for football for years. and it's a moneymaker for the club. So we tried it, and it was okay. A lot of work, but it just didn't float like it did in Lee County. So we only did it the 1 year.
Okay.
Now I was involved with the First Tee program.
Right.
First Tee is a national program throughout the United States, and what it does is what they start in elementary schools. The First Tee program will bring like little tennis balls out and their little sticks, and they learn how to. But we have core values that we teach, and then as you move up through middle school and high school, they have other programs. Cindy was the executive director of First Tee, and when I worked with her, she came out to see me when I was in banking with another gentleman, and they wanted to start this First Tee program. She had started junior golf. Okay. Cindy Darling is her name, and so it's First Tee of Collier under the umbrella of junior golf. And she was just starting, so I started with her. She brought a gentleman out, and they had this vision that they were going to have their own golf course and own facilities. And I said, "You're dreaming," but I said, "I'll do everything I can," because they were instructing at the school level. Well, Cindy, I hope you hear this. The Golden Gate Country Club, or the Golden Gate Golf Course, will have in a half a year a facility that they can teach in, and they'll have, I think they're going to make it into a 12-hole golf course. She's done wonders.
That's incredible.
So she's done for First Tee what I've done for maybe Barron Collier. She's a dynamite. Well, and then what happened was I told Cindy, I said, I'll work anytime you want, but I don't have the money to put in the kitty. I said, we got to get people who are interested in First Tee, but can go out and talk to people and bring money in. We got to get money. And she's done it. She's got a board now that is wonderful. So I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I said, Cindy, it's time for me to step aside. And so I did. And I'm an emeritus member of First Tee. But they've done a wonderful job, the people who are now in that. So that and the bank were my things that I did after I retired.
Well, that was a true lesson in perseverance right there, just keeping at it. And eventually that dream came to fruition for First Tee. Yeah. That's incredible. So what role do you feel like athletics and plays in? It seems like there's always this theme as we're talking about athletics comes up. How do you feel that has a role in the educational and character building process of a student? Community.
I mean, you feel that you're a member of the football, basketball, band, or whatever, and you're proud of your school, and it allows you to express your feelings. I think that those schools that have good athletic programs and good extracurricular programs, because I think band is just as important as football and all those clubs and so forth, because you're representing your school, you're proud of your school. I'll guarantee the better our programs got, the better the school got as far as behavior and so forth and so on. So it's all in one.
That's I agree with that.
Now today well, I guess I'm not a politician, so I'll say it today. With the way that as colleges have gotten to where athletes can transfer from school to school to school, and now it's really got down into the high school levels, it's terrible. I mean,
it doesn't help build that community.
Well, the problem is if you're a great volleyball player, and the school that you're zoned for is 500, but the school next door is great, you can go to that school to play volleyball, but you're going to get. And then the other thing is, if you want to transfer, the school that's receiving has to have space. Well, believe me, every principal in Collier County is going to have space.
They're going to find space.
They're going to space for their kids. So I just think that athletics is getting too much. I mean, what are we teaching a kid? I don't like you, and you're my coach, and I'm going to go over to Barron Collier and play basketball.
Yeah, what happens when because I know people, the way they talked about their coaches, whether it's high school, college, even their T-ball coach, Pee-wee, whatever, they remember them. If you're bouncing around every year, then I wonder what you lose in that mentorship and that, and not only community, but that mentorship.
The losers are the schools that are trying to build a program and kids are leaving.
Right.
So if you look at a sport and 50% of the kids on that sport are from other zones, well, that's going to make that program good. But if your best players have left schools and other places, and their programs are suffering. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I didn't think about it. I knew on the college level what was happening, but I didn't know it, it had filtered down, so to speak. Yeah.
So that's a big change in what represents the community and the school systems. It's not just in Florida. I mean,
no, I think it's nationwide at this point. I mean, there's a lot of that going on.
And I actually believe the colleges and schools, high schools, are in a situation they don't know how to get out of.
I agree with that. I think they've just come to a place with different situations that they can't.
I won't name the school, but there was a quarterback. He went and told the coach, said, "I want $2 million," and they said, "Well, I'm not going to give you $2 million." He left. He's getting $4 million now.
Yeah. See, I remember being brought up that it was, winning's great, but you also have to learn how to lose.
Exactly.
So you know what it feels like to win. Because if you're doing nothing but winning all the time and being on the winning team all the time, and then you go to lose, how are you going to handle that?
And it should be on a level playing field.
Yeah, that's true too.
If your child goes to Palmetto Ridge, then you should have the same opportunities as an athlete and not have to play some other school that's got 20% of their students athletes from that zone.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. That's interesting note to get to the end here on.
Okay.
So finally, I can't wait to see the comment section on that one. Finally, when a former student stops by and comes to town, what do they share the most? What kind of memories do they bring up to you?
I think I can conclude it like this. I had a student come up to me and said, "My son has never seen this principal, and he's a senior at that school."
Oh, wow.
So I think that's a problem. And that person really shouldn't be there. I mean, I was always visible, and I'll stop on one other
Yeah, go ahead.
Visibility was important, but you get busy, and your assistant principal get busy. So what I did, every week we'd have a principal's meeting, a staff meeting. I would tell my assistant principals, "Okay, you're over in the A wing today, and I'll be in the C wing, and you'll be in the D wing." And the deal was that week you had to spend at least 3 periods when the students were changing classes in your area. Well, everybody thought we were always out watching kids, but it was a way that I could make sure that the students saw the administration,
right?
And that was a good thing that we got to do.
That's a great story. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, and thank you for sharing all of your stories and your anecdotes and things I didn't know about Barron, having known so many people who went there. And I want to say thank you, Paul, but it doesn't sound right. I have to say Mr. Manley.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Manley, for joining us on our journey and for your leadership at Barron Collier and for joining us today on Icons of Naples. I am so glad you could come and sit with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we will see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us today on Icons of Naples. I hope you enjoyed learning about our history on this series. And a special thank you to Ferrari of Naples for allowing us to use this amazing space. And a special thank you to our series sponsor, Robert of Philadelphia. To find all of our episodes on Icons, be sure to check out your favorite podcast platform or you can also find us on YouTube. Remember to subscribe and follow to keep up to date on all the latest episodes. And don't forget to share. See you again on the next Icons of Naples.